Yes, folks, it's Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. Do please, seriously, it really helps. Like and subscribe. It helps to get people noticed. It gets the channel up on YouTube, and we're trying to get the truth out there. Now, I get asked numerous times, in my experience, what would be the right way to deal with the current crisis in HM prisons. Right, well, for a start off, we've got a big problem in that a lot of the prisons are being overrun by gangs and violent individuals who are manipulating, terrorising and corrupting the prison staff. One of the problems with that is that a lot of the staff, approximately 40%, are recruited from the Hostess Brigade. Thus, we've got approximately 40% of the prison staff are female, and they are quite obviously too easily manipulated by the sophisticated inmates in there who are using them as mules to bring in drugs, smuggling, radios, telephones, communication systems, drugs, spice, you name it. And it's happening, and we can't say that it's not happening. So you've only got to look at the papers virtually every week. Some prison officer gets arrested, charged and prosecuted for what's used to be known as trafficking. That's taking drugs or materials in to prisoners unlawfully. They're charged with misconduct in public office, and as I previously mentioned, one prison alone has seen 38 members of their staff, female staff, prosecuted and charged for such offences. So this is not working. And what else is not working is the dispersal system that was introduced after 1968 with the rejection of the Mountbatten report. The Mountbatten report is still available. So basically what we've got to do is eradicate the Hostess system and recruit 10 to 15,000 big boys. We also need what Mountbatten called the Vector system, which is a massive high-security prison in a remote location which is extremely secure. And these days it can be run on an automated system in that we would have an electronic opening and closing system for the cells, individual cells, reasonably decorated, but to hold all the life imprisonment inmates. And currently, and I've just checked this, there are 8,554 inmates in HM prisons who are serving life sentences. That rather puts us in a position here where what we've got to do is build a massive jail to hold 10, maybe 12,000 inmates. Where are we going to put this? Well, I recently visited Dartmoor Prison, which is currently closed, and in my opinion it should remain closed. It's a relic of the Napoleonic era. It was actually built to hold prisoners from the Napoleonic Wars in the early 1800s. So it isn't fit for purpose. It's a rat-infested, radon gas infiltrated relic of a time that is long past. Time to close it, along with the jails such as Pentonville, Wandsworth, Wormwood Scrubs, Strangeways, Walton Jail. Build a massive 10 to 12,000 place prison. And I would highly recommend an island, but if we can't find an island, it isn't beyond the wit of man, that's the Home Office by the way, to actually find a location, and I highly recommend Dartmoor. build a massive jail on Dartmoor. Nobody wants to go there, of course, unless they're going on holiday, as I went for a ride round. It's very picturesque. But it wouldn't be very picturesque if you're locked behind the walls, 20-foot tall walls of a massive, great, secure institution. Transfer all the life prisoners there, 8,554 to start with, and you've then got space for approximately another 4,000, 3,000 inmates who will undoubtedly come through the system. That's dealing with the Category A prisons, because it's very difficult to deal with Category A prisons in the dispersal system. I know, I've been there. They take up a great deal of time. They use the officers' time because they've got to go everywhere under close escort. And they are, generally speaking, quite dangerous and potentially escape. If anybody's going to try and escape, it's somebody who's serving life. So if you stick them in a super secure prison, and the way to staff it would be to have 14 days on and 14 days off. Now, during the 14 days on, the staff would have to work, or they have to be available, 16 hours a day. Not necessarily working 16 hours a day, working 8 hours a day and 8 hours on standby with 8 hours in. They should build what would amount to the style of army barracks that used to have for the military, so that the staff would be on duty 14 days, then off duty for 14 days, where they could go home to their families and pay them a proper wage. I would suggest that it would start at 35,000, rising over a period of 5 years to 45,000, so that you actually retain the staff. What's happening at the moment is staff are being recruited to HM prisons, and they're very rapidly disappearing when they find that it's not for them and the money isn't quite what they expected it to be. But if you've got an attractive system, a modern jail that's electronically controlled, and you use the big boys. Now, when we're talking about using big boys here and the troublesome inmates, we also have a problem with recidivism. Now, the recidivism are people that commit minor offences. We might call them minor offences, but they still amount to theft, burglary, housebreaking, sexual molestations, etc. I highly recommend, now I've been asked numerous times what I recommend as a former officer and an experienced member of the prison service. I highly recommend that what we introduce in the courts is a 3 strikes and you're out system. Because people are going in there and they're treating it as virtually, it's a little break from their routine outside, and it doesn't actually concern them too much being imprisoned. But if they knew that the third time they were imprisoned, they were going on an indefinite sentence to, let's call it HMP Dartmoor 2, if they knew that they were going there and that were going to be held in extremely controlled, top security institutions, and during that time that they're in prison, they would have to work on a rehabilitation system. So that's one way to do it. Now, I believe that the prison system should not just be holding people in multiple occupancy cells 23 hours a day, because that's leading nowhere. It's human warehousing. And the former governor of Strangeways coined that term, Norman Brown, when he was interviewed for the BBC documentary Strangeways, filmed in 1979 and screened in 1980. You can see that. It's on YouTube. Just type in BBC documentary Strangeways 1979-1980. And in episode 3, you'll see that I'm on there expounding very similar theories then. And I was explaining, or trying to explain to the staff, that you can't have management running the unions, because the management are running the unions for management, not for the inmates. So that's it. Quite radical, but if you're paying attention, Home Office, you've got my number. If you've not got my number, ask MI5, because they most certainly have. Those are my thoughts on how to reform the prison system, very briefly, but I'll certainly come and talk to you at the Home Office. That's the song dinger, by the way, because I know that some of you are very sensitive and quite critical of my singing abilities, but nonetheless, I have requests for songs. I did Billy Fury yesterday, and today I'm going to do one of my favourites, which is a song by Billie Holiday. It's You Go to My Head. I sincerely hope that you enjoy this, because as you've tuned in, you definitely deserve it. Don't forget, like and subscribe. And by the way, have a look at my books. They're doing quite well, actually. I've got to start work on book 4 now, which deals with the riots. And following the riots at Strangeways, I was approached by the defence lawyers for the inmates that actually conducted the riot and asked if I would give evidence in their defence, which I did. You can check that out. The QC prosecuting for the government was Brian Levison. Brian Levison conducted the Levison report on phone hacking at the News of the World, The Sun, etc. So, believe me, he's no fooling, Brian Levison. That was quite stressful, believe me, but I did it. Here we are. This is Billie Holiday's, my version of Billie Holiday's You Go to My Head. You go to my head, and you linger like a haunting refrain, and I find you spinning round in my brain, like the bubbles in a glass of champagne. You go to my head like a sip of sparkling burgundy brew, and I find the very mention of you like the kick of in a julep or two. The thrill of the thought that you might give a thought to my plea casts a spell over me. But I say to myself, get a hold of yourself, can't you see? It never can be. You go to my head with a smile that makes my temperature rise, like a summer with 1,000 Julys. You intoxicate my soul with your eyes, and I'm certain that this heart of mine hasn't a ghost of a chance in this crazy romance. You go to my head. You go to my head. They are You Go to My Head, as performed today by John G. Sutton, but previously recorded in a most acceptable manner by the fabulous Billie Holiday. If you've enjoyed that, I'll see you at Sick Parade tomorrow morning, and I've got a syringe ready to medicate you.